Hello, class, and welcome back for another day. You are either joining me today as a Wednesday or a Thursday, and you have a sub in the classroom. So I'm going to go through my instructional video as you can follow along, and then you will be able to understand. So some of this may be done together, some independently. Today, remember when you come into class, you have warm-ups to do. So at this time, you should obviously have been looking on the board, making sure that you have your warm-ups ready to go. And today we're actually not going to write anything in the warm-up section of our binders. But to review for warm-up activity, remember you come into the classroom, enter, get your binder that's located in the back of the room in the bins, and make sure that you go back, sit down, and open up to the warm-up activity section in your binder. Today, again, you don't have to do that because you're not writing anything down. I'm actually just reviewing for warm-up. Oftentimes, the warm-up would be on the screen, and then you do whatever it says for warm-up. So that's warm-up activity. That's the first thing you do, and then entering procedures. Last time we talked about thinking reading, and we read pages 5 through 7 in Coach Carter. We also previewed the cover, we read the back, and then I talked about thinking about what you're reading. So we did those strategies as we read along. So at this time, you should take out your Coach Carter book. It should be in the front of your binder. You can close your binder after you find your book. I'm going to read pages 7 through 15 with you, and I'm going to do a little bit of the thinking out loud and some of the things that you do while you read. Okay, so you're going to use thinking reading strategies as we are reading and looking at Coach Carter together. Now, this is something that you can do together as a class or possibly independently if you have your earbuds with you. Okay, so while you're reading today, I want you to kind of keep in mind a few things while reading. One, check for clues. Like, what clues are there in the story as you make predictions? Like, I think this is going to happen because of this. So make predictions and look for clues as you read. Pronounce unknown words. So when you come to bigger words, try to break them apart and then restate the sentence using the word in the sentence and summarize what you've read. Like, think about while you're reading, oh, this is what's going on in the story. I'm going to do some of these activities out loud as I'm reading to you today. But when you're reading on your own, you want to make sure that you're taking time to do those kind of in your head, and that will help you become a better reader. You can also link it to prior knowledge. So if there's something about a coach in here who's really strict, you might think about a strict coach that you had, for example. So at this time, I want you to open up to page 7. Okay, so go to page 7. We stopped kind of right where these dots are, those 2 stars. Okay, so to kind of recap again, what we read the other day, the St. Francis coach, they're kind of the Richie Rich team, and he is talking to Coach White, which is the team that's losing in the game. He's talking to them saying, those boys are bad kids. They need to be shaped up. And the St. Francis coach, they have all the fancy uniforms, and Coach White gets kind of snappy and is like, well, if I could have your checkbook, you rich person, and buy all my players, we'd have a pretty good team too. So that's where we're at with that. So they're not being real good sports from Coach White's team. And yet the other coach, the St. Francis coach, he is kind of acting like they're better than others. Okay. And you should wonder, why are the bleachers so bare? Okay. So we're on page 7. Again, I'm going to read it to you and do some thinking out loud, making predictions, etc. All right, Kenyon Stone tossed his filthy jersey into his locker. Yo, Ty Crane outscored our whole team by himself, Kenyon said to no one in particular. So Ty Crane's like a superstar. You remember he was doing some good moves earlier. So I predict maybe something's going to happen to him because he's the star player. We ain't had but 32 points, Junior pointed out. I got 12 of them. What'd you get, Kenyon? The crane swooped down on you and delivered a large basket of beat down. The guard, Jason Lyle, grinned as he kidded Junior. Lyle was one of the only white players on the team. Crane clowned you, dog. Kid had you on lock. Yo, Lyle, Timo Cruz put in as he adjusted his baggy pants. If you don't shut your fat mouth, I'm going to shut it for good. Can't we all just get along? Joked a scrawny kid named Worm. Good fitting name for Worm. Carter stood nearby at the edge of the lockers, taking in the players. They didn't seem like much of a team to him. A sudden banging caught Carter's attention, and he looked over to see Coach White waving to him from his office window. Carter walked past the team. Remember, Carter was the one who was up sitting in the stands with his girlfriend. Kenny Ray Carter, Coach White said warmly as Carter walked into his office. Richmond High School All-American, 1972. Carter smiled and shook his old coach's hand. Nice to see you, sir. I was really happy to see you in the stands tonight. Carter held up a palm. I have to tell you that I still haven't decided. So you should be wondering, what is it that he's got to decide? White nodded. As I've told you, it's time for me to step down. Last few years have been really tough. Okay, so we're at the bottom of page 8, and you should be wondering, what is it that's been so tough? Losing's hard, Carter said. This isn't about losing games, Kenny, White replied. So his name is Kenny. White replied, the corners of his mouth twisting downward in frustration. I can't get them to show up for school, for practice. So Coach White is struggling. So I predict that he's going to lay down some rules because he's like, the kids don't come to practice. I can't get parents involved. I'm done chasing kids in the street and pulling them into the gym. So I predict that Coach White is going to step down because it says, I'm done with this. I'm done chasing kids around. So that would be a clue that I think he might step down. Carter looked through the glass of the team. This is a tough job. Richmond is a tough little city, White said. You know that, what street are you on? I live on Hillside, Carter replied, but my sporting goods store's on Crawford. So there must be a difference in where streets are. Then you know what I'm talking about. It's a challenge, the old coach chuckled. When I saw you here tonight, I thought, I got him. He's in. He's in? Meaning, is he going to take over the team? Carter. There's another reason I came tonight, Carter admitted. My son plays for St. Francis. White's eyebrows lifted in surprise. He does? Which kid was he? Because remember, Carter went to the St. Francis side, but yet Coach White is his old coach. So he played on, Carter's son played on the opposing team. He didn't play, Carter said. He's a freshman. White nodded. That's great, he said slowly. It's a great school. The front wall of the office shook as Cruz shoved Lyle against the glass. Coach White pounded the glass, and the players gave each other a final shove before shuffling away sheepishly. So if they shuffle away sheepishly and the coach is pounding on the glass, are they going to go proud and cocky or kind of like, I'm out of here, kind of like that, okay? Sheepishly. They're kind of going quietly and away. You're seeing these boys on a bad night, White said, turning back to Carter. They're frustrated. White folded his arms across his chest as he looked Carter up and down. So he's going to give him the look, like you saw him on a bad night. So those nonverbals say something. Look at you, Kenny. You're the best thing that came out of Richmond basketball. He jerked his head toward the gym. Your name's still on the wall out there. So Carter is a really good, awesome athlete. Playing basketball at Richmond was a really important part of my life, Carter admitted. Still is. Come on, Kenny, White pleaded. You could do wonders here. I've officially offered you the job. That's it. I'll shut up now. So now I predict that Kenny or Carter will take over for Coach White because Coach White's kind of older. He's kind of done with this show. Carter heaved a sigh. He knew the truth. that if he could do wonders here, it was only because wonders needed to be done. On the other hand, it was a great opportunity to make a difference. Carter looked up at his old coach, whose dark eyes were boring into him, eagerly trying to read his face. A slow smile spread across Carter's lips, and he nodded. So with that smile, and that he's pretty happy, and he could tell that his coach's eyes were boring into him, not like boring, dull, but looking at him like, what are you going to do? Okay, so then I predict, like I said, that I think Carter would take over. What's your name, boy? Urkel? Worm taunted the African-American boy in the green suit jacket, gray slacks, and plaid green necktie, so he's all dressed up. Like, Urkel is kind of dorky, kind of. Oh, I'm sorry. You play for St. Francis, Worm went on, his voice dripping sarcasm. You must be the great Ty Crane. Lyle leaned forward and whispered something in Worm's ear. Oh, I'm sorry, Worm said again. I thought you were Ty Crane. See, the 3 black boys on St. Francis all look alike. The boy stood as the Richmond players hooted. So, son, how do you like Richmond? Cruz asked in a low growl as he stepped up to the boy's face. You scared of Richmond at night? You should be, son. You might have won the game. But you lucky, they stopped the fight. Without speaking, Carter stepped into the circle and led away his son. So they're kind of egging his son on from St. Francis, saying, you big scaredy cat, you're all snazzy. And so I predict that there might be a little fight. The Richmond players strolled off. Daddy, save me, save me, save me. One of them mocked as the others laughed and slapped high fives. So Carter went to get his son, and then the other team was like, ha, we got him. What's that about? Carter asked his son. Damian Carter shook his head as he and his father walked toward the bleachers where Tanya was chatting with another parent. Nothing. Tanya looked up at Carter as Damian walked past and onto the court. What did you tell him? She whispered. Carter shook his head. I'll tell you later, he said in a low voice. Tanya and Carter joined Damian at the free throw line, where he stood looking up at the All-American blanket on the wall behind the basket. Ken Carter, All-American, 1971 and 1972. Damian read aloud, looking up at his dad. Both years? So he's pretty proud, like Damian's the boy, and Ken Carter's his dad, like, hey, Dad, you're pretty awesome. So he's proud of his dad. So I predict that they have a pretty good relationship. Yes, sir, both years, Carter said. I played with a great team. Were the baskets 10 feet high back then? He asked, barely managing to keep a straight face as he teased his father. They must have been 9 feet, or maybe it was co-ed. Were you playing amongst girls or against girls? So he's kind of ripping on him a little bit, like, the only reason you're up there, Dad, is because they lowered the baskets or you're playing with girls. So by joking like that, again, that's a clue that they probably have a pretty good relationship, not being disrespectful. The corner of Carter's mouth ticked up into a smile, and he lunged at Damian, who tried to dodge away. The two grappled playfully as they made their way toward the exit. Tanya grinned at them, wondering what Carter had told Coach White. So she says, what did you tell Coach White about being coach? Again, you can make your own predictions at this time. I can't coach that team, Carter insisted later that evening, and as he paced through the kitchen of his modest one-story house. Did you see those kids? What about Damian? Tanya asked. He's asleep. No, Kenny, Tanya shook her head. I mean, how would Damian feel if you coached at Richmond? I don't know, Carter admitted, thinking a moment, because the son is playing for the St. Francis, not Richmond. Thinking a moment, he added, he'd be upset. So you told the coach no? Tanya's face held a question. No, Carter replied slowly. I told him I'd think about it. But you saw the school, he went on as though he was trying to convince himself. It was rough when I went there, but it's beyond that now. So it's just keep getting junkier and junkier. Tanya shrugged. Then forget it, Kenny. Don't even discuss it again. I have to, Carter said impatiently. He officially offered me the job tonight. I'm on the clock. So he's going to have to make a quick decision because Coach White offered Carter the job. Tanya looked at him evenly. And when you say offer and job, there's usually money involved. Carter smiled. I'm sure there's $1,000 in it for me. For 5 months' work? Tanya's eyes were round. So you might think, who's going to do that for just $1,000? That's a lot of hours. Well, you can't say no to that, she joked. And the team is bad, Carter added. The players, they're angry. You don't have the time, Tanya pointed out. You're trying to open a second store. So those are clues, too, that you might predict maybe Carter isn't going to take the job from Coach White for the basketball team. That's right. I don't have the time, Carter nodded vehemently. I don't have the time. So vehemently wouldn't be nicely. It'd be like, I don't have time, so shrug it off. And you promised to take your girlfriend to Mexico in January, Tanya added. Exactly. And we're going, baby. I promise. That's what I'm saying. Carter went on. I cannot take this job. So he's also got a vacation planned. Tanya and Carter looked at each other for a moment. They were in perfect agreement. So, Tanya said finally, when do you start? Carter smiled, shook his head. He had known from the beginning that Tanya would understand. She always did. They would need me right away. Tanya smiled as she grabbed a pile of papers off the kitchen table and shoved them into her sleek black briefcase. Carter eyed the bag. You going home? I have to be at the hospital early tomorrow, Tanya explained. Thanks for dinner. She stopped on her way out of the kitchen to give Carter a gentle kiss. You're going to be a great coach, Kenny, she said in a quiet voice. She kissed him again, then smiled. Carter heaved a sigh as Tanya walked out the door. He hoped she was right. So, is Carter going to take the job? Because she's kind of like, Tanya is her name. I think you should. So you should wonder at this time. I think that he might, because there's the clue that he said he hoped she was right, because she was like, I think you're going to be a great coach, Kenny. So Kenny Carter might take the job. Okay, so now we're up to chapter 2. And you might think, when you think of linking to prior knowledge, okay, because I did some of the examples with you for checking for clues. You should be making predictions, pronouncing unknown words like the word vehemently, and then you would know that it doesn't mean boldly necessarily. So based on strategies that you use while reading. Linking to prior knowledge, it might be an example of where you had to make a decision quickly, and you had to look at the good things and you had to look at the bad things, and none of it was perfect. So Kenny Carter has to look at this as, should I take on this position? Okay, so that's a little bit of thinking reading for the rest of chapter 1, pages 7 through 15. And I am now going to move on to the next part. Okay, so we talked about entering and exiting class. We did our warm-up, which was kind of a review for today. We didn't actually write in the warm-up section. And then I also read the rest of chapter 1 and did thinking, reading, making predictions, looking at clues, thinking about tough words, and then linking it to prior knowledge. That's kind of like making a connection with what you're reading, thinking about those kinds of things. But right now we're going to put Coach Carter away. You can put that back in the front of your binder. So stick that back in the front of your binder and then open up your Chromebook. And I want you to be able to find a book on Clever. So I'm going to show my screen. And I want you to first go to Clever. Okay, so go to Clever, wherever you saved it as a favorites, and log in. You are going to be able to see, once you complete the book pass sheet, if the library has a book that you're interested in. So open up Clever and also open up Schoology. Okay, so on Schoology, you need to find the book pass sheet because this is where you're exploring books. This is due for Friday. Okay, so find the book pass sheet on Schoology, and then you're also opening up Clever. So go to the book pass sheet. You can do this either on the paper copy, which is in your binder. It's the second page in on your binder, but you still have to listen to the links that are with the book pass sheet so you know what books are about. Okay, so go to your class in Schoology, and my computer is super slow today. And then go to the independent reading folder, and then open up the book pass sheet. It's right here. Okay, so open that up and open up your document. It says My Document on your screen. This is where you can type in your stuff for your answers. And then you need to submit this book pass sheet on Schoology by Friday, on or before Friday. Okay, so opening up this, you can type on this document, or like I said, you can write on the second sheet in your binder for book pass sheet. If you write on the sheet, don't have to give it to the sub, just put it in the back in the bin. Remember, you have to get a sheet out of the bin and, fill this out and staple it to your paper copy and then put it in the bin back here. Okay. So remember, listen to these two links. That's why I asked you to bring your earbuds or headphones. You can also fill in this sheet and explore new books by looking at the Bluford series listing. I have that also in the independent reading folder. It's also in your binder. It's like the third thing in your binder. So you can listen to the links that I put on the book pass sheet, and you can go to the Bluford series books where it says Bluford series favorite books list. You can also read some of those. Now you can't pick Coach Carter because that's our first book, and you can't pick The Bully because that's our second book that we're going to read. So fill in this book pass sheet, use these links, listen to those. Even if you fill this in and you're still thinking about a book, continue listening to those links. Read through this copy of the Bluford series list. These are more books that you could pick from. Again, don't pick The Bully or Coach Carter because those are books that we're going to be reading together coming up. And then if you find a book that you're interested in, this is where you go on to Clever. So go to Clever, and then you find CIHS Media Center. So click there. And this is where you see if the library has the book. So you go to Alexandria Book Catalog. Again, you go to Clever, CIHS Media Center right there, and then you click on Alexandria Book Catalog. So once you click on that, it will let you put in a book title. So you just go search. Maybe I want to read this book about these two young girls, and it's during the Holocaust, and they're going to be split up by the Nazis. It's called Number the Stars. I'm going to put that one in, by Lois Lowry. Number the Stars. So you just put in the name of the book, and then it'll search like, is it in our library? Yay, there it is. Then go back to the teacher and show the teacher, yeah, they have it in the library. Can I go get it? And then you can write down, the teacher can give you just this orange piece of paper. You write down the title of the book and the author, and then go down to the library and get it, okay? And then come back. So that's how you can get a book today, okay? So again, finish the copy of the book pass sheet, whether it's online, listen to the links, also use the Bluford series listing. These are all under independent reading. And then go on to Clever, go to CIH Media Center, Alexandria, put in the search for your book. If it shows that it comes up, whatever that search is, get an Orange Pass, write the name of the book and author, go down to the library, get it, come back, and sit down and start reading your book. Okay? So, any questions for today during work time? All right. So what you're doing now is you are taking time to search and discover for a book. You are taking time to fill in your book pass document and submit that on Schoology. And remember to always check the distance learning folder on the days that you're not in class. There will always be something there. Okay, so coming due is checking the distance learning folder, work on the book pass sheet, and go find your independent reading book. Okay, so go ahead, take time now at this time to work on book pass sheet and getting a book and then reading your book. Okay, so thank you guys for listening. I hope that you have a great rest of the day, and let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to check in on Schoology distance learning folder, and your book pass sheet is due for Friday, and get a book checked out so you can start your own reading. Have a great day, you guys.